Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Stone Sundays. I'm your host for today, Trey Hill, joined as always by my co-host, renowned Kings author and avid smoker, Jason Coldiron. Sir, welcome to the show. This is the first show we've had since Jokic and the Denver Nuggets won the NBA title. Considering we love talking about basketball and that's what they play for, we have to lead off with that because what's the point of all of this if not to hold that trophy at the end of the year? And Jokic, Murray, the whole crew, they were able to really run away with it, especially after that Phoenix series. So now that you've had a chance to compose yourself, how are you doing today, sir?
Thank you very much. I'm doing quite well. I guess I should point out to our listeners, it is a Father's Day morning, and we are both fathers. So, praise us for being fathers and stuff.
Yes, we deserve all of the accolades.
And none of our kids are criminals, so we're doing all right.
Well, not yet.
Not yet. No, we're doing good, though. It's an amazing NBA season, I'd like to point out. Nuggets are totally worthy champions. I'm already in a little bit of basketball withdrawal this week. But I'm really happy. This was a really good season. Really enjoyable, really high quality basketball, great storylines, worthy champions. I really feel good about this. And, this makes about the 41st year I've been following the NBA. And I'd say this was one of my favorite years of NBA fandom. So good stuff.
Well, I don't have that many in the bank, but It definitely was one of my favorites. And I think part of that was the parity going into the playoffs. There were so many teams that had a chance to win, especially once Milwaukee went down in the first round. It really opened it up in the East. And it was always open in the West, or at least it felt that way until Jokic and the Nuggets got to the playoffs and just kind of ran through it. But for me, I think that was really the most impressive thing. I think the big stat going around was like they were 10-1 in their last 11 playoff games. The only team that won 2 games off of them was the Suns. So there's been a lot of talk about the quality of opponent that they had to face, but those teams beat the teams to get there, and the Nuggets just put them to bed. It wasn't like it was a 7-game or a 6-game close series. The Nuggets were in control pretty well the entire time. Didn't you pretty much feel that way?
Yeah, I never really felt like probably throughout their entire playoff run, I never really felt like they weren't gonna win. I think back to a year ago during the NBA Finals, and even though the Warriors won the Finals 4-2, people might forget that in Game 4 they were down 2-1 and 23 points. So they were actually kind of on the brink. They could have gone down 3-1, and down 3-1, they might lose the series. So people forget because they ended up winning 4-2, but they were down 2-1 and 22 or 24 points or something. That was very much a contested series. This series with Denver and Miami kind of thought that even on Miami's best day, they'd only have a 50-50 shot of beating them, and then that's on their very best day. The
Nuggets
ultimately it seemed like Miami was overmatched here, and
they won the series in a game where they shot under 20% from 3. How often does that happen? That just kind of shows the dominance that they had in this series. So for me, I've compared Jokic to Steph Curry that first year when he came in and changed the game because his play style was so different and so unique from what the rest of the league was doing that the rest of the league just hadn't caught up. And between that being, Steph's 3-pointers and Draymond on defense, for this, it's really just Jokic and the positional size that they have. MPJ is huge. Aaron Gordon is a big guy. They have positional size and they have Jokic. But that seems to be enough to shift the play style so much that teams are going to have to adapt. The next 4 or 5 years, I think teams are going to have to look at the Nuggets and Jokic and think, how do we adapt to his play style? How do we beat teams that have playmaking bigs like Jokic? the way we plan for 3-pointers now, I think the playmaking across the board, the playmaking with size is going to be what we look at in 3 or 4 years from now from a lot of teams.
Jokic is Jokic. He's a dominant player, and of course the league will have to adjust to him in some ways. But I think the other point that you hit a minute ago is kind of a much more important big picture thing, which is, sports, and the NBA is like all of sports, it's imitation leagues, right? Whoever wins, everybody tries to take something from them. And I think what you hit on, and I think the thing moving forward that the league in general and teams are going to be trying to replicate from this Nuggets win, you can't replicate Jokic. Like, he's a generational player, like you can't really replicate that. But the part you might be able to replicate, as you said, and I think moving forward is going to be a big deal, is the value of positional size. I think that's going to be a thing that the league in general and teams look at and see how effective the Nuggets were with it. They have a bunch of players who in some cases aren't particularly, like, I don't want to say bad defenders, but perhaps kind of average, but just because they were all so big that they collectively kind of filled in gaps where their weakness is, and the size and the length all the way across the board.
There's only so much size on the court, and when you fill it with guys that are that long, that tall, it makes it easier for Jokic to recover on things because he knows he does have So for me, I thought you were going to say you can replicate the playmaking big because you have one in Sacramento with Sabonis. Sabonis, that's what made him an all-star. He was an all-star, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's third-team All-NBA all-star.
Yeah, I must be high.
No.
But yeah, like that's what made him an all-star, though, was his ability to play make more than anything on the offensive end for me. And I think that is something that teams will have to deal with in the future. But I think you're right. Positional size is going to be huge. And that's why the Thunder are going to be great in like 2 years, if not next year.
Yes.
But so for me, I try and rank this finals team. I feel like they were really dominant. There's been a lot of talk about Jokic and his all-time ranking. For me, though, I wonder where this team is going to rank because I don't know if Bruce Brown's going to stick around. So if he leaves, this might be the apex in terms of talent that the Denver Nuggets have on this squad because the CBA is getting ready to make it harder to add talent. I know that they made a trade to get a pick from the Thunder, but this might be the best talent the Nuggets ever have. So with that in mind, with the idea that they do have a play style that's just ahead of its time, it's hard for me to try and figure out where I want to put this team in terms of like the rankings all time. Have you put any thought into that? I hate to I hate not celebrating and just immediately ranking things because this is so hard to do. Jokic had such a dominant playoffs. The run he had was an absolute all-timer. And for me, I think it ranks really highly, and I think that's why I gravitate towards wanting to rank it so quickly. Like, for instance, when the Raptors won a few years ago, I didn't ask myself this question. So, Cold Iron, I've rambled long enough. What have you had to think about when it comes to where they rank in terms of all-time teams?
Okay, well, a bunch of things. First of all, for those who know me, I'm a major list nerd, so I kind of dug into this a little bit. This was kind of fun for me. Before I go totally down that rabbit hole, just a quick side note. There's different ways to define greatest and favorite and defining eras of greatness and all that kind of thing. And if anybody would like to read about that, there's actually an article up at hoopsocial.com right now where we talk about how to even have this argument, how to discuss who's the greatest and who's your favorite and who's the best and all these things. And it's all kind of subjective. So go to Hoop Social and check out that article and then come back and we can actually have this debate. So as for me looking at this Nuggets team, so we're going back. We decided to go back to 1977, define that as the modern era, air quotes, the year Bill Walton and the Portland Trail Blazers won. Just as a loose definition, we started 1977 And going into this, I really thought that I was going to have the Nuggets in the upper half of champions. I really think really highly of this team, and I think they're really terrific. But in going down the list of champions, something that I realized, and I knew, but stoner moment came back to me. There's a lot of really, really amazing, great NBA champions in history. There's some absolutely phenomenal teams and dynasties, and so like going down the line, like I love this Nuggets team, but I can't honestly say they're better than any of the 80s Lakers or Celtics teams. They're not better than the Bad Boys Pistons. They're not better than any of the Bulls team champions of the 90s. They're not better than the two Hakeem Olajuwon Rockets teams. I personally only have them better than one of the 5 Spurs championship teams. I've got them behind the Kobe Shaq Lakers, but ahead of the Kobe Pau Gasol Lakers. I've got them better than the 06 Heat and the 2012 Heat. I've got them better than the 2011 Mavericks. I don't have them better than any of the Warriors championship teams, and I do have them better than the Bucks and Raptors. So you add all that up, I was expecting them to be closer to middle of the pack, but when you put them behind all these dynasties and great teams, it actually only puts them at 11th out of 46, 40, whatever. So I've only got them ranked 11th, and I really like them. I really think they're really, really good. I think this isn't about them. It's just that in the history of NBA champions, there's just some really freaking amazing teams.
I have them above the Bad Boy Pistons. There's one team apiece with the Celtics and Lakers both where I think the Nuggets probably win. And again, it's hard to compare because
For sure.
It's all about play style. And the thing with Jokic is the players around him, they might not have the name value that like the Spurs with Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili have, but they fit the system just as well as like the Bruce Bowens and the Boris Diaws on that team. And the run that Jokic is on, like, I don't think he's ranks as high all time as Tim Duncan, but I think it's right up there with what Tim Duncan was doing at his all-time apex.
At his peak, sure.
At his all-time apex. And I think Jamal Murray is better than anyone that he had on that team at that time. Because like he had Tony Parker, he had Manu Ginobili, but they were young. Like they weren't the seasoned veterans that they were. Like that first team when Duncan was just at his apex and he was just the best player on the planet. I don't think he had the team around him. So like there's even a couple of those Spurs teams where, or I guess just one. I would say that the first Spurs team that won and the last Spurs team that won, I would have them above. So I have the Nuggets a little bit higher, but for me, it's all about matchups more than anything. Like I don't think they'd have a chance against any of the Steph Curry Warriors teams, except maybe last year's. But that's because Steph Curry is a nightmare matchup for Jokic. But like with the Bad Boy Pistons, I think this Nuggets team would be a nightmare for Isaiah Thomas to try and play against. They're so long, so athletic. And he didn't have, like, he had a little bit of a three-point shot, but not really. Like, he got most of his work done inside the three-point arc, and there's nowhere to work inside there against the Nuggets. So like, for me, I just, as special as Jokic is, as hot as Murray can get on the offensive end, and as much as I love their defense, I would have to have them, like, not top tier, but maybe like the one below it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. It's just there's a lot of great teams, and I really like this Nuggets team. In my heart,
it's almost like winning the NBA Finals is hard, and you have to be really, really good to do it.
Huh? Yeah. So in my heart, I've got them like top 10, but when I look at it on paper, I've got them like 11th out of 40 something.
I mean, that's still pretty good.
It's just the way
they're right there knocking on the door.
In my heart, top 10. I love them. They're adorable and so likable. I mean,
all right. So to transition from that, we're going from the team that won the title to the teams that want to win the title next year, and the Nuggets are included in that. So if you have a theory for them, I suppose you can throw it out there. But really, I brought this up because the day after the finals happened, it was just like, boom, we're straight into the offseason. There's all these rumors about who wants what pick, who's available, who's not, who's talking to who. And before we get in, the draft is later this week. And before that happens, and then we're just on to the next thing, I wanted to appreciate some of these crazy rumors that popped up and some that might not be so crazy. So I know you said yours is going to surprise me. So I'll go ahead and lead off with mine. And mine was the moment there was a chance that Zion might be available and going to the Charlotte Hornets for the number 2 pick. And just the idea of having LaMelo throwing lobs to Zion, I think it might be the most entertaining thing in the league. And I am 100% here for that. I want it to happen. I will go to games just to watch it happen. But that's been my favorite one. And I know it's not likely, but is it that crazy?
No, it's really exciting because that would be amazing, for the what?
Especially if they could find a way to keep Miles Bridges.
For the 18 or 19 games next year, they would be on the court together. That'd be rad.
That's right. And we're here for moments. Like the Hornets aren't going to win the title next year, more than likely. But if we can get some moments and really, what do we remember from the Hornets season this last year? I got nothing.
Right.
And I live here. Kevin Durant made his debut against them because they were the cupcakiest of the cupcake teams.
Well,
all right, what do you got, though? What was yours?
So I'm not normally a conspiracy theorist. I'm normally the first one to shoot them down. However, this is a stoner show. So my off-season theory is that there's a little bit of a conspiracy going on with regards to Summer League. It was this back and forth about when Wembanyama will make his official pro debut or NBA debut or whatever. And the word this week is that he may play in Summer League, and Summer League in Vegas starts on that Friday, the 9th, I think. But the actual first Summer League is here in Sacramento on the 3rd and 5th. Sorry, Vegas starts on the 7th. So Sacramento is first. So theoretically, if he was going to play in Summer League, it should be here in Sacramento. And I don't normally do the conspiracy things, but right now, my off-season theory is that there's no way the NBA allows Wembanyama's debut to be in Sacramento. It's going to be in Vegas with everybody there.
You think the NBA is going to unilaterally say, Sacramento, we know you've got everything planned. We've had this figured out for months now, but we're swapping you out with another team. We're just trading towns, and we're sending them to summer.
No,
I think that's crazy.
No, they don't have to trade teams or anything. The schedules are already set. All they got to do is have Wembanyama decide to make his debut 4 days later in Vegas, because the Spurs are playing in the Sacramento Summer League and the Vegas one. So all they got to do is be like, if the Spurs.
I guess I didn't realize that. I thought you had to play in one or the other.
No. I believe there's going to be people playing in both, because it's not running at the same time. So the Spurs can be like, okay, we're going to let him play in the Summer League, and if they were like, okay, well, the first one is in Sacramento, so let's do that. I'm just saying, if they did come to that conclusion, the league might be like, hey, Pop and RC Buford there in San Antonio, why don't you have him debut 4 days later in Vegas instead, where we'll have all of our media, where everybody will be, and it'll be a much, much, much bigger deal, and we'll own the press cycle more. So I'm just saying, if the Spurs were considering having him debut in Sacramento, my mini stoner conspiracy here is that the league would be like, just how about you do it 4 days later in Vegas?
Yeah, they have all 30 teams at Vegas now, which I did not realize. Okay. I thought you went to one or the other. And so for me, I'm all in on your theory. I'm backing you 100%. I think
the league will not allow him to debut in Sacramento when he could debut in Vegas.
This will be the first of many. Well, probably not the first, but one of many things we can add to the Adam Silver conspiracy theory file. That, to be honest, he really needs to do some work because David Stern had some really good ones over the years, and Silver needs to step up because we all love a good conspiracy.
So yeah,
some other ones I like are Lillard and/or Beal going to the Miami Heat. Those seem a lot more likely, though. And can we do Zach LaVine to Portland for Simons and number 3, please? Pretty please.
I would love that.
We'll even lift the protection so then Portland can trade their future first and then add somebody else. Bring in Chris Paul. No, Chris Paul can't go there, but bring in somebody else, anybody. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I just want the number 3 pick.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyway,
do you want to hit the draft before Devil's Advocate, or do you have anything else on the off-season stuff?
Just to close with that, I will be there both days in Sacramento, and I'm pretty sure I will be watching Scoot or Miller or the other guy, and I will not be seeing.
Are you going to boo if Wemby's not there?
Boo. No, I will not.
Boo real loud now.
Let's be real. I'm going to be so freaking stoned I might not know who's playing, but no, not really.
Hopefully he's at least there so you can report back on just how big he is in person, because that seems to be the litmus test. When people see him in person up close, it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. All right. Why don't you go ahead and Devil's Advocate, and then we'll draft just a little bit.
All right. So speaking of mind-blowing, this one, it's a little out there. But given the news of everything that's going on, I'm going to make the case that Michael Jordan was a good NBA owner. If you haven't heard, he's getting ready to sell the team. And I, at first, was very happy. I live in Charlotte. I know he's not one that likes to spend money on the team, especially if they don't seem to be contending. So at first, I'm like, awesome. This is great. He's getting out of here. We can get new owners in who want to spend. And it was Hoop Social owner, actually, Burns, who really put it in perspective in the Discord. He was like, I moved to Charlotte when he brought basketball back to Charlotte. So Jordan starts off by bringing basketball back to Charlotte. So the team was going. It wasn't like he came in as a new owner and started cutting costs. He's the guy who brought basketball here to the, it's not a huge area, and it definitely wasn't back then. It's expanded a lot. So for this smaller area, he was the guy who brought basketball back. And as much as we love to rag on him for not spending money, especially with ownership lately, the guys who are in ownership and are spending money are like the Steve Ballmers of the world, the Mike Jacobs, the Lakers and all them out in Golden State. And Jordan just didn't like, as much as we would love for him to spend that money and to not make money off of the team and actually, pay money in to put a better product out there. When did they ever have a team that you thought, man, if they just added one more role player, they're a title contending team? Ever?
Like never, but you don't have to be a title contender to be a playoff team and have some success.
And that's why he's not a great owner, but he's still a good owner because he kept Kimbo around for a long time. He made the right choice on that one, flipping him for Rozier. He's drafted LaMelo. He did the Miles Bridges thing, right? Just send him away for a full year, just no questions asked. Just you're gone, and it wasn't discussed. It wasn't talked about. It was just over with, shutting. So for me, he brought the game back to the city. I feel like he's put out a fairly respectable squad, even if he's been on the cheaper side. Like, he signed Nick Batum to that huge deal once upon a time, and that bit him in the ass, and he just never did it again. But I feel like he's been a good owner because he brought the game back. He's put out okay teams, and while I get it as a fan, I would want him to spend the money. If I was him, if I was in his shoes, and it was like, okay, now you can make $100 million this year, and you can put out a squad that's going to be, the 8, 9, 10 seed, or you can spend $20 million. So that's $120 million swing to get the 6th seed and to still get your ass beat in the first round. So for me, I respect the hustle. I'm glad he brought basketball back to Charlotte. I'm glad that he recognizes he is, like, a gambling terms, he's the low roller, and he's in a room with a bunch of high rollers now, and he's getting out. So we can get another high roller here in Charlotte. He could own this team for another 10 years, not compete for another 10 years, and sell it for probably another $2 billion. Instead, he's getting out while he can. The team's going to get to be better, and he makes a lot of money. So, in conclusion, good sir, Michael Jordan, not a great NBA owner, but not a bad NBA owner. He was a good NBA owner. And I definitely do not believe that with all of my chest, but there's a little bit of me that'll back it up.
Yeah. Good job. Good argument. I mean, I still don't agree, but I think a lot more positively of it now. I guess at the end of the day,
my big thing is looking back, I looked back at those teams and I'm like, when was the point to try and win a title with this team? They've been in constant, they were just in purgatory.
I don't know when the point is, but just 2 statistics overall during his tenure, they won 2 first-round series and had the 27th best record in the NBA overall during his tenure.
They got 2 first-round series wins. Man, good for him.
27th out of 30 or 32?
I mean, realistically, they probably should have just cut Kemba, cut Batum, and not tried to be middle of the pack there those few years before they got LaMelo. That was the big mistake.
He had to trade Kemba a year sooner when he still had a bunch of value, and that's where that
went. And I agreed with that too, but then Burns was like, well, they didn't want to trade him because he meant so much to the community, and Jordan means so much to
they were hoping it would just work out, but they didn't really have a plan for how it could. So
yeah, and I think that was really Jordan's biggest shortcomings was he didn't have people in positions of power to help his blind spots as an owner. But I'm excited for new ownership in Charlotte. Hopefully things can work out with Miles Bridges and he can keep his shit together. We're 28 minutes into the pod. I can cuss at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so congratulations, Jordan, on your big check. And I will not hold a sign saying peace out, bitch, at the arena later. All right. We wanted to hit the draft a little bit before we go.
Real quick, I got a couple of Sacramento points here. So last year we drafted Keegan Murray, and it was a home run pick. It worked out terrific. This year, his twin brother, Chris, is expected to go somewhere around the range where the Kings pick. He might go higher, so it might be a moot point, but it is certainly totally possible that when the Kings are on the board at number 24 this Thursday, that Chris Murray will be there and a possibility. And he actually does fit a team need. He is a wing, which is what we should be looking for. But I'm just going to say, I kind of hope we don't do that. And it's kind of for their own good. I'm thinking these twin brothers would be best suited apart, pursuing and living their NBA life. I would certainly be stoked if they did pick them, but I just kind of think it might be better off for everybody if they don't. And that's just kind of my 2 cents on that. That adding his twin brother might not be the best for them. That's
for me. It depends on how they are. Like if they're super competitive and they're going to push each other in practice, and it's going to be a good vibe. I might even make it a positive. Like if they're going to get to the gym together at 5 a.m. and leave at 7 at night, like depending on how they are, how they interact, but I'm definitely bringing them in together. I'm definitely seeing how they are, because you're right. As great as Keegan, you would hate for that to be a negative and to drag him down after he had such a successful rookie year.
Well, what happens if they don't totally get along? Or what I'm thinking bigger picture is like a first-year player and a second-year player are really, really focused on like establishing themselves in the NBA. And I just worry that having your twin brother playing and going through the exact same situation, it might be a net negative for them. That's all that's my concern.
The only big draft thing I have is I want to plant my flag. It's Anthony Black, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be one of the top 4 players in this draft, and that includes Wembanyama and Scoot and Miller.
Okay, so like I've seen him going around number 10, and you're saying he's going to be really good. Is that the deal?
I mean, I think he's considered one of the consensus top 9 players, probably a top 7 guy.
Yeah.
So it's not quite that big of a jump, but I've been on him since he was rated back in the teens. He's the only guy I paid any attention to this year, and I really like his game. I think he's going to work no matter where he goes. And he's the guy that I'm all in on this year. Last year it was Tari Eason who went to the Rockets and was a big surprise. So is there
a chance your Bulls are going to get him?
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
They don't even have a pick.
That's right. Okay. So unless they made some kind of trade that
the Blazers have the number 23 pick. There's a pretty good chance, I think, that the Bulls end up with the number 23 pick, but that's about the most likely place I see them trading into the first round. And he's going to be long gone by then.
Okay.
Maybe they can get Murray back there.
Yeah.
But all right, that's all I've got. Do you have a strain of the week before we go? I didn't ask you before, so if you don't, I can just close it. Look, I can just make that go away.
No, it's cool. I'll just do my usual plug. I'm back to my favorite.
Good times.
What's that?
It's back to good times.
Back to good times. Yeah, that bad strain last week is in the drawer. So I just went back to my Northern Lights Americana, which has been probably my favorite strain of 2023. So I'm back on that and enjoying that daily. Northern Lights Americana.
All right, I'm going to get off here because the Liberty are playing a pretty good game. I don't even remember who they're playing, but it's a big WNBA day today. They've got 4 games on that are pretty good. So if you're not doing anything, you should check that out for Father's Day. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
To anyone listening that is a father. And to you, Cold Iron, because as you said, we're both fathers. But anything to plug?
And our kids aren't criminals yet.
I mean, yet, but even if they are, some criminals are pretty cool, man.
Okay. Hey, yeah. Good point. Fair.
All right. Any plugs?
Hoop Social is pretty cool.
Yeah, they got a lot of stuff coming out. You should go check that out. So thanks again for listening to this edition of Stone Sundays, and have a good one.